Hello, every pony. Aboard Brony here, coming to you live from my new microphone. Well, from my new microphone anyway, not quite live. It's a nice microphone. It's very shiny and pretty, and it has a little light on it, which means it's very, very powerful. The software, however, is a little over my head, and spent quite a bit of time over Friday night and today trying to figure out how to use it, and I haven't had a whole lot of luck so far. So yeah, but the microphone's working at least, so it's a start. So in the meantime, while I'm still trying to hammer my way through figuring out this new software, I figured I'd go ahead and do something, at least, to break in this new microphone. That microphone breaking in something that I just referred to is a Klopfic. Yay. Yay. So, be warned. It's not, like, insanely graphic per se. Like, there's not a lot of like sick wording or anything like that, but it's still mostly about sex, so there you go. Picture is relevant. I just wanted to let you know that ahead of time. Keep it in mind later on tonight when you're thinking about this story and doing those horrible things you do that make God cry. Anyway. Sorry. I've been drinking a little bit so far tonight, so my sense of humor might be a bit off. And technically I haven't stopped drinking yet, so there's that. But anyway, I wanted to do at least something for you guys, something you can enjoy, while you wait for me to get off my lazy ass and figure out how to work this newfangled fancy schmancy software. Okay, so this story is called Vibrato by JadeMeteor on FemFiction, and as per always, I will include the link in the description. The picture is something I just stumbled across on Google Images. Wasn't really able to figure out where it originated from. And it is an Octavia vinyl scratch Klopfic, so it's kind of right up our alley, isn't it? Anyway, hopefully by tomorrow I'll have figured out enough of this new software to at least start the first chapter of our next major story project. And I want to apologize to the subscriber who requested it for having to wait again. But I promise it's coming. I promise. Okay, so Vibrato by JadeMeteor. This is gonna be so weird. Alright. Octavia sighed as she put down the quill. All day spent transcribing a new piece onto what seemed like an infinity of sheets in front of her. Tomorrow, the orchestra's conductor would examine her work and decide if it would be played in one of the concerts to be put on the following month. It was hard work, but that and the actual performing certainly brought the bits in. The gray mare closed her eyes. So much work, and for what? She could get by on a quarter of the income. An image of her housemate quickly swam into the forefront of her mind. Ah, yes. Vinyl. The renowned DJ's performances often brought little to no actual money in, as the damaged vinyl and her fans tended to cost whatever venue they were attending, usually consumed most of her wages. Octavia had taken to paying for the food and general living costs for the both of them out of habit. Oh, vinyl. Why? Octavia wasn't really sure. She was certainly good friends with the electrically maned pony despite outward appearances. They seemed polar opposites to the outside observer, but had a lot more in common than at first glance. They both liked music for one, and could appreciate the appeal in the other's chosen genre of music, even if they didn't like it themselves. They had long discussions about where the future of music was headed, not to mention who was going to have a bigger part in it. But then there was another reason, which the cellist rarely admitted to herself. Vinyl was more than her friend, at least in her own mind. Since day one, Octavia had been fascinated by the DJ's quirks. Her insistence on wearing her trademarked goggles as soon as she stepped out the door, her habit of handing out nicknames as it pleased her. Octi was Octavia's designation. And the way she moved. Vinyl. The way she moved, spoke, smiled. Octavia had had more than a small crush on Vinyl for a while, and never telling any pony, never admitting it, was starting to take its toll. That, and she hadn't a chance to simply relax for quite a while. Unconsciously, her usually proper stance slumped slightly as her thoughts continued to wander. Wouldn't it be nice to tell her how I feel? Wouldn't it be nice to feel her? Her cheeks took on a reddish tinge as more images of Vinyl, and now of Vinyl and herself, rose from her imagination. She sank to the floor, her blush intensifying. She was starting to feel more interested in the whole concept than she was strictly comfortable with, and spoke out loud to reassure herself, pulling herself back up against the table. No, Octavia. That is neither proper nor sensible. What would... Whoa! She was interrupted by the table upending itself as she leaned on it to sit back up, resulting in sheet music scattering the room, and her, with her flank in the air and face on the floor. She stared at the floor for a few moments, realizing what her new pose would look like to any pony entering the room. Of course, the only pony who was going to ever enter would be Vinyl. Not moving, her breathing started to grow heavy. What if Vinyl walked in? What if she liked what she saw? And wanted to have some fun? Somewhere in her mind a tiny voice protested, but it was too late. She could feel the heat in more places than just on her cheeks, and it had been far too long since she'd taken care of herself. The mare raised her voice, doing her best to sound as normal as possible. Vinyl, could you come here, please? And in a quiet, almost moan, quickly. From a few rooms away, a loud crashing was heard, followed by an outright yell across the house, punctuated by hoofsteps as, presumably, the unicorn moved closer. Hang on, Octi, I'll be right there. I was just tidying up some equipment and Octi, what are you doing? This last piece was as Vinyl Scratch, DJ without compare, since she couldn't spell nonpareil, walked into the room, saw Octavia's offered rear, and covered her eyes with an arm. Are you stuck or something? Do you need help? Octi sighed. Well, she'd come this far. Yes, I need help. She lowered her flank and sat on the floor, trying to act normal and quieten her slow and steady breathing. Could you come here and sit down? Vinyl lowered her arm cautiously before trotting over and sitting herself, head up, next to her friend. You okay, Octi? You look a little red. Did you fall over or something? You look like you were trying to do a hoof stand or something. Octavia shook her head at her housemate's cluelessness. I just need a hoof with something, that's all. She sat up and, after a brief pause, pressed her lower torso against Vinyl's left flank. I seem to have a slight fixation. Octi, you're a little huggier than usual. Octavia shrugged, using the movement as an excuse to wiggle closer. Am I? I hadn't noticed. Vinyl's ears moved down in concern, and Octavia took the opportunity to take the closest one into her mouth, nibbling it gently. Octi, what are you doing? The earth pony lowered her attention to Vinyl's neck, kissing and nibbling it softly. Vinyl bit her lip. This wasn't like the usually stuck-up pony at all. She expected a certain degree of this from the oft-drunk ponies at the clubs, but Octi? It's not like she hadn't occasionally thought of that way herself. But her train of thought was interrupted as Octavia continued kissing. Vinyl subconsciously raised her head to allow her access, closing her eyes. Maybe she just wanted to have some fun. Her pale face started to acquire the same pink tinge that her friend was already sporting, a sound escaping her lips. Octavia's ears pricked up at this. Smirking, she put her hooves around Vinyl and dragged her to the carpeted floor. "Did you want to say something, Scratch?" Vinyl shook her head and embraced Octavia back, pulling their bodies up against each other. Her horn glowed for a moment before a soft melody started playing from the sound system on the wall. The room's lighting dropped into a more comfortable level. They sat for a moment, gazing into each other's eyes. "Hey, Octi, guess what?" "What?" Vinyl pushed her mouth against Octavia's as she opened her mouth to reply. A gentle sound of pleasure came from Octavia as she returned the pressure, probing Vinyl's tongue with hers. Is this what she wanted? Her body answered for her as she wrapped herself around Vinyl, bringing her hind leg up and over the DJ's flank. She could feel the heat from the unicorn's loin, and she was sure Vinyl could feel hers. The two mares' eyes both closed as they lay intertwined for a few moments, quiet moans barely audible as they continued to oscillate. She broke off the kiss with a gasp. This was happening. This was actually happening. She'd never given Vinyl any reason to suspect her friend was more than a little bit in love. But all the same, the thoughts she'd been having barely 5 minutes prior were starting to seem more like premonitions. Were her feelings mutual? Did Vinyl care about her in the same way, or was she just up for anything? She opened her eyes to see the pale mare looking towards the door, horn glowing with magic. A thought occurred. "Vinyl, does it hurt if you bash your horn against something?" The music changed, presumably as per Vinyl's wishes, and her horn ceased its magenta glow. "Huh? Nah, I can't feel a thing most of the time." Vinyl tapped her horn with a hoof. "See? Nothing. It hurts if some pony smacks it while you're using magic, though." She winced in recollection. "I remember, I was doing a set and I got hit on the horn while I was changing discs by a thrown bottle. It was only plastic, but ow." Octavia looked at it thoughtfully. "Vinyl." "Yeah?" Could you do some magic for a moment, please?" Octavia stumbled over the words. It hurt when she was using magic. This was worth a try. Vinyl's face took on a bewildered look. "You ain't gonna hit me, are you? That'd ruin this whole thing we've got going on," and she paused and nodded towards their bodies. "I don't know if you've noticed, but you've been kind of grinding on me this whole time, and it's really starting to turn me on. More than I was. You know what I mean." The cellist's eyes widened as her mind caught up with her body's actions, which was, as the DJ correctly noted, squirming against the heat coming from between Vinyl's hind legs. I... Words failed her for a moment. "Magic! Please." "Sure thing, Treble Clef." Vinyl's magical aura reasserted itself, although where the magic was directed was unknown. "I'm fetching something from my room, really slowly for you." Octavia placed a hoof on Vinyl's snout and pushed her head down, bringing her glowing horn level with her face. Octi?" Octavia licked her lips. Here went nothing. She gave the horn a gentle lick as Vinyl spoke again. "You know, nobody's ever touched my horn on purpose." The last syllable was an involuntary gasp, and her next breath came in shudders. "What did you do?" An answer came in the form of another lick, slower and longer this time. Oh, wow. Octi, wow." Octavia smiled to herself and brought her lips down over the tip of the horn, giving it gentle flicks with her tongue as she moved down a little way before retreating again and again. Vinyl's eyes drooped, and her hooves started to make movements across Octavia's cutie mark, then round across her backside. The DJ had never felt so aroused, her tongue poking out of her own mouth, mimicking what she felt on her horn, gasping as she did so. The noises Vinyl was making weren't doing much for Octavia's self-control, and what was a gentle rocking motion of her body had become large circles, attempting to press Vinyl's marehood against her own. The aura stopped abruptly. Vinyl, panting, spoke, raising her head once more. Can't concentrate anymore. Wow, Octi, didn't think you'd come up with something like that. She reached up with a hoof where the magic had dropped something onto the carpet above their heads. Got something for us. She gave the startled mare a kiss on the snout before wiggling free of their embrace. Vinyl? Octavia's voice had taken on a more breathy quality. The unicorn noticed. It was evident that she was as horny as Vinyl was. However strange that phrase sounded applied to an earth pony, especially given that she started the whole thing, but wow was the only thought going through Vinyl's head. Wow, she sounds good. Wow, she looks good. Her magic flickered back into life, and with some effort, she faced away from her partner and attached the retrieved object to herself. Octavia caught a brief glimpse of rubber before Vinyl turned away, seeing only straps adorning the area above Vinyl's tail as the magic faded. Vinyl, is that what I think it is? Vinyl froze. What do you think it is, Treble Clef? It's a strap-on, isn't it? Vinyl was grinning as she turned back around, the not inconsiderable shape hanging from between her legs. Might be. Octavia propped herself onto her back, opening her mouth to protest before realizing the pose she just assumed. She tried to keep her hind legs together. I'm not sure. I've never... She couldn't meet Vinyl's eyes as she spoke. The unicorn looked down at the floor. Oh. Vinyl shuffled on her hooves. I've never used one. I don't really know why I have it. I just thought... She stopped. The earth pony was always very easily embarrassed, even by one or two misplaced words. Maybe that extended to... I just thought I could, fuck you with it. Octavia's eyes could not have been wider. Vinyl! Her hind legs quivered. Just prop you against the wall, see what we could do. Vinyl continued, unabashed. Octavia's breathing started to sound like Vinyl's had done during the horn licking. Maybe you could have a go with it. Do me as you wanted to. The mare's legs slowly relaxed, giving Vinyl a full view of Octavia's glowing sex. Vinyl. She tried to stop the words, but to no avail. I need you. The unicorn came closer, positioning herself over the panting Octavia. Vinyl leaned down and kissed her, using a forehoof to raise Octavia's head. Octavia closed her eyes, enjoying the kiss. Vinyl took the moment to lean in with her new temporary appendage. Octavia didn't open her eyes, wincing slightly as the strap-on entered her. Vinyl paused for only a moment, giving her a second to adjust, before starting a gentle rocking motion. Octavia squirmed slightly, opening her eyes and trying to meet Vinyl's gaze. She opened her mouth to speak, one word out between her gasps. Faster! There was no response from the unicorn above her, grinning down at her. Faster, please. Vinyl's grin widened. Nah, Octi, I don't think you want it enough yet. Octavia moaned petulantly. Vinyl, please. Vinyl's pace remained unchanged, and Octavia's squirming intensified. Faster, please. Come on, you. What's the matter, Octi? Insults failing you for once? Octavia grabbed Vinyl and pulled her off her hooves, forcing her to land on the earth pony with a thud. Ugh! Octavia's hips rose, starting to move against Vinyl's motions. The toy Vinyl was using had and in for the wearer, and the pressure from Octavia's gyrations was causing it to make its presence felt. Octavia pressed harder against Vinyl's crotch, trying to accommodate as much of the strap-on as possible. Vinyl let out a slow moan. Oh. Okay, Octi. You win. She increased the speed of her thrusting, and Octavia's movements matched hers. There was a minute where the room was filled with gasping and the sounds of the two mares' movements. Octavia's arms fell back from Vinyl's back, her eyes rolling back. The sound of her voice replaced the gasping, first as short moans, growing into a near-constant yell of gratification. Vinyl squeezed her eyes closed, moving faster and faster. She wasn't quite there. Octavia's back arched, her head throwing itself back as she screamed in orgasmic pleasure, waves of bliss rolling through her quivering body. Her hooves pressed against the carpeted floor as Vinyl slowed her pace before pulling out gently. Octavia lay, panting and shaking. Octavia licked her lips, attempting to summon some moisture onto her parched mouth. That was wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. She looked at Vinyl, who had collapsed onto the floor. The pale mare had discarded the dripping rubber toy and was trying to find purchase on the floor, rubbing against the ground frantically. Oh. She wiggled over to Vinyl and gave her a gentle shove on the side, rolling her onto her back. You didn't finish? She nuzzled Vinyl's stomach as she moved her head lower. Let me take care of that for you, Scratch. Vinyl didn't respond as she shook her head from side to side, unable to lay still. She had been so very close. She barely noticed Octavia's movements, moving her hind legs aside on instinct as Octavia worked her way down her body. Reaching her destination, Octavia paused. Vinyl was absolutely dripping. Obviously, she needed to release as much as Octavia had a few minutes ago. She took a long, slow lick along the length of the slit. Vinyl responded instantly, almost shoving herself up into her partner's face. The Earth Pony rolled her eyes and pressed her muzzle against the top of Vinyl's mound, exploring with her tongue. This was a new experience for her, at least, although she was unsure about Vinyl. Of course, she knew what parts were where. She briefly flicked Vinyl's clitoris with the tip of her tongue before moving lower again, eliciting a sharp gasp from the unicorn, whose hips jerked upward briefly once more. Octavia would have grinned if her mouth wasn't already occupied. This was fun. Vinyl started to rock herself in time with Octavia's licks, her eyes closed, her breathing loud. She moved a hoof onto Octavia's mane and stroked as gently as she could. The compulsion to press the cellist down was strong. She heard an uncharacteristic giggle from below, and felt hooves against her legs, pushing them further apart. The movement from Octavia's mouth stopped as she pulled away slightly. Vinyl struggled to get the words out. Octi... Octavia had been waiting for that. She pressed her muzzle back down, focusing all her attention on Vinyl's clit, flicking it with her tongue before switching to circling around it again and again. Vinyl lost it, gasps becoming moans, moans forming words. Oh, Celestia, yes, yes. The words were again lost to a yell as her body shook. Octavia not stopping her work as Vinyl came, wanting to make sure she gave the DJ every possible moment of pleasure. Vinyl continued to twitch for a few moments before she winced. Octavia lifted her head and waited for the unicorn's breathing to quiet before speaking. Vinyl, you are as loud as expected. She wiped her muzzle with a forehoof and smiled as Vinyl opened her eyes. Yeah, well, you weren't exactly quiet, Treble Clef. Octavia lay down next to the recovering mare, embracing her. But, wow, you really know how to lead a girl on. The Earth Pony's blush returned. I wasn't trying to. I just wanted you to enjoy yourself, I mean. You're cute when you're flustered, Octi. You literally just screwed me. There's nothing. Vinyl leaned over and kissed Octavia's cheek. To be embarrassed about now. Not right now. Octavia giggled again, shyly, hugging Vinyl tighter. You wanna go get some dinner together tomorrow night? Like a date? Music to my ears, Vinyl. And there you go. A clopfic. for all you little cloppers out there to enjoy. But just remember, Pinky's watching. Alright. Well, I think it's pretty good for tonight. Unless I decide otherwise later on. That's an option. I can do that if I want. So I will get this uploaded, and you guys can enjoy. And, I guess I will get back to work trying to figure out how to use this software the way I want. In case I haven't already explained myself, I might have. I can't remember. The new story I'm going to do has something like 12 or 15 canonized character voices. And then like 4 or 5 original ones. And like I don't really think that's within my capabilities to make them all sound decent. Like maybe discernible, but not as decent as I would like them to be. So I'm trying to see if this new software can allow me to do some simple voice modulation to get the voices a little more accurate. And so far I'm having almost no luck. But I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to keep drinking, so surely some kind of amazing creativity will come out of that. Anyway, I'll upload this. You guys enjoy. In the meantime, if you have any other, like, quick one-shot flash fictions you like, send me a link. While I'm banging my head against this new software, I'm totally down for recording some quick stuff for you guys. Obviously, I don't mind Clopfix, so... Alright.